Hey people, it's nice talking. Now this is from Daily Mail. So Beijing uses phone data to round up to 350,000 people for coronavirus testing and installs facial recognition checkpoints at apartment complexes as 21 million are put on the lockdown. Beijing is using phone data to round up more than 350,000 people. Oh, this is a repeat. One Western reporter revealed how he received a phone call ordering him to get tested after he attended the sprawling Zinfadi wholesale market where the new outbreak started. A city official explained that 355,000 people have been identified for testing under big data. It also emerged that at least 21 people had lockdown rules reimposed on them in China as part of a fight back measures. Checkpoints have been reimposed on all residential complexes in the city after its emergency response level was raised, and residents are required to go through facial recognition cameras or show digital passes if they wish to enter or leave compounds. Another 21 cases of the virus were reported in the past 24 hours in Beijing, the National Health Commission said, taking the total number of new infections to 158. The figure was down from 31 on Wednesday. A decline in new cases prompted one of the country's leading epidemiologists to say at a briefing on Thursday that the city's outbreak is under control. But crowds of people waiting to be tested have become a common sight in Beijing in recent days. Footage shows hordes of people packed in a corridor at a hospital in Jiangxi, west of Beijing, as they waited to be tested. Writing for the Associated Press, Mark Schiefelbein told how he was tracked by his phone after he attended the Xinfadi market in Beijing. He explained that he was called by an official who informed him that I should shortly report to the gates of a nearby sports stadium to be bused to a coronavirus testing site. He added that he was told that someone with my cell phone number had been in the vicinity of the market. I may have been tracked through my cell phone. A Beijing city official said that Wednesday, 355,000 people have been identified for testing via big data, but he did not specify how, he wrote. It comes as news also emerges that Beijing has imposed lockdown rules on its 21 million residents, according to the Times. Residents have been urged not to travel outside the capital after the outbreak spread to 4 other Chinese provinces. Thousands of flights have also been cancelled at Beijing's airports, and the city's emergency response level has been raised to its second highest. The first case of new outbreak was identified last week and linked to the Jinfadi food market. Close contacts were being traced to locate all possible cases as quickly as possible amid strengthened testing and other prevention and control measures, Hu Hejian said Thursday. Anyone who has been near the market since May 30th, along with their close contacts, will be quarantined at home for 14 days and tested at least twice, city government officials Zhang Ge said. The city has closed its borders to all confirmed cases, suspected cases, patients with fever, and close contact from abroad and other places. China already has barred most foreigners from entering the country, and even foreign diplomats arriving from abroad must be under 2 weeks of isolation at home, he said. All indoor public venues, including clubhouses and party rooms and apartment complexes, will remain closed, Zhang said. Offices, restaurants, and hotels in high-risk area will be shut down, he said. Flights to the city's 2 airports have already been cut by half. The national total of cases included 4 brought by Chinese travelers from outside the country and 3 in the city of Tianjin and Hebei province, both of whom border Beijing. Wu Zunyu, chief epidemiologist from Beijing Center for Disease Control and Prevention, said a press briefing for today's Beijing outbreak is already under control. However, Mr. Wu added that the new cases will still occur tomorrow and the day after. Wu explained that Beijing officials discovered the cluster, tracked down the source, and imposed measures to block the spread timely. He said the city had locked down the outbreak in the smallest area possible. However, footage showed large crowds gathered at Shizing Hospital, Xi'an, Shangxi for nucleic acid test in response to a fresh outbreak after the outbreak. They were seen packed into narrow corridors as officials spoke to them through a megaphone. Crowds of people waiting for tests have become a common sight in recent days in Beijing, which has tested more than 350,000 people, which more than expected. It's very difficult right now, said musician Qin Wen, 31, whose plans to visit the southwestern city of Chengdu faced a delay because of the wait for a test. I don't mind waiting, but after the test I need to leave in 7 days and there may not be a flight I can get then. Residents now require a negative test result on a nucleic acid test to travel, officials say, as well as to visit some attractions or return to work in industries that involve food handling. That is in addition to mandatory tests for those with direct links to the market and their close contacts, as well as people in surrounding neighborhoods and frontline health workers. There could be a large number, as officials say. About 200,000 people from all over Beijing have visited Zinfadi since May 30. Testing efficiency is high, Pan Zhuhong, deputy director of the Beijing Municipal Security Bureau, said on Thursday. Staff at a restaurant in the southern Fengtai district told Reuters that health workers have tested every employee. At the same time, state media warned that supplies in the city of 21 million could be strained. At Reuters checks showed waiting times for voluntary appointments stretched to weeks or months in some places. China, a top producer of nucleic acid tests, could turn up to 5 million a day. Authorities said last month Beijing has expanded daily testing capacity to 90,000, but the new program puts a strain on all resources. Some citizens spontaneously go to medical institutions or favor clinics for tests, and crowding occurs, the state-run Beijing daily newspaper said. This in turn heightened infection risk and pressure on the supply of materials and testing capacity, it added. A Reuters check showed many testing facilities inundated by those seeking voluntary tests, with bookings filled as soon as they opened on the city's official app. Just one of the 11 sites telephoned by Reuters answered. The first medical center of the People's Liberation Army Hospital said its next available slot was a month away. The Beijing effort is China's latest mass testing exercise, though it is more focused than a similar program in Wuhan, the central city where the virus first surfaced last year that had tested more than 6 million people in less than 10 days. In Beijing, people marshaled for mandatory tests in converted parks and sports fields and said test times were designated for them in door-to-door checks, forming part of a contact tracing campaign. Those without tickets distributed by organizers will be turned away, one organizer told Reuters. No new deaths have been reported so far, leaving the total number of fatalities at 4,634 amid 83,293 cases recorded since the virus was first detected in the central city of Wuhan last year. The Jinfadi market supplies more than 70% of Beijing's meat and vegetables. The number of visitors to the market made the outbreak hard to control. Pang Jinghu, deputy director of the Beijing Center for Disease Control and Prevention, told reporters Wednesday. 11 markets have been shuttered, thousands of food and beverage businesses disinfected, and schools closed again in the city. Hundreds of thousands of people have been tested for the virus so far, but a shortage of expensive machines has led to delays in processing swabs. China also reported 4 imported cases on Thursday as Chinese nationals returned from abroad. Until the Beijing cluster emerged last week, imported cases had accounted for the majority of infections in the country for several months. Meanwhile, a memoir by former U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton accused Donald Trump of pleading with Chinese President Xi Jinping to boost food purchases, describing it in terms of his own election. Mr. Trump allegedly stressed the importance of farmers and increased Chinese purchase of soybeans and wheat in the electoral outcome. Mr. Bolton also claimed that Trump thought it was the right thing that China has built a concentration camp where members of the country's population of Uyghur Muslims were being imprisoned. The publication of the former official's bombshell book is being blocked by the Justice Department, who are arguing that Bolton was in breach of the non-disclosure agreements he signed. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo urged China to reveal all it knows about the coronavirus outbreak that is believed to originate in the country. Pompeo, with the ruling Chinese Communist Party top diplomat Yang Jiechi in Hawaii on Wednesday, Pompeo stressed the need for full transparency and information sharing to combat the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and prevent future outbreaks, the State Department said in a statement. Pompeo has joined President Trump in criticizing China's response to the outbreak, including giving credence to a fear that the virus may have emerged from a Chinese laboratory in Wuhan. World Health Organization last month filed calls from most of its member states to investigate how to manage the response to the virus, but evaluation was stopped short of looking into the origins of the virus. China maintains that controlling the virus's spread should be given priority. China is also being called on to relieve the financial consequences in Africa. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa addressed Chinese leader Xi Jinping during an online China-Africa summit. He reminded China that African nations are seeking significant debt relief as they battle the pandemic. African nations have called for a 2-year suspension of debt repayments and other relief that would allow them to focus resources on the health crisis. But China, Africa's biggest creditor, has not indicated it will offer a sweeping solution. Experts say it will focus instead on bilateral arrangements with countries. Ramaphosa urged China to offer more relief and propose alternatives. One of the worst was still to come for Africa in the pandemic. Xi, in his speech, said he hopes the international community, especially developed countries and multilateral financial institutions, will act more forcefully on debt relief and suspensions for Africa. Well, I hope you like that. I'm going to leave this article in the description. Please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. If you like to support the channel, leave my phone in the description. And I'll leave my Instagram there as well. Peace.